Now we're going to create building lights. We're going to model this light that will be positioned in multiple spots around the building, and a fluorescent lamp that will be placed near the front of the store next to the door. So let's start. First, we'll create the wall lamp. We're going to create a cylinder first, and this is the shape we're going to start from. Let's position the cylinder right here in the front of the building near the second floor. I'm going to set subdivision axes to 12 and radius to 7. Let's position it a little better and just pull it out a little bit in front of the wall. We also need to set subdivision caps to 3. We'll need those edge rings to define the top and the bottom of the light. If you don't do the subdivision caps now, those edge rings, it'll be more difficult to insert them later. So when working with a cylinder, and of course depending on the object, it's a good idea to insert a couple of subdivision caps just in case you need that geometry later. It's easier to remove those rings than to add them back in. Let's grab the bottom set of vertices and pull them down. Going to scale them out a little bit. This is our upper shape of the light. Going to select the bottom faces and extrude them down. Then select all the bottom vertices and scale them out to create a wider shape. Let's select the bottom faces again and extrude them down. We now have our shape for the light. I'm going to scale these vertices out a little bit so the light is a bit wider in the middle, and then select all of the inner edges and change them to a soft edge. Let's disable wireframe unshaded and take a look. And this is a good start. Let's insert 2 edge loops right here in the middle and then scale them out to create more rounded cone. And that's looking pretty good. Let's make some slight adjustments by scaling these edges out. I'm going to disable wireframe unshaded, take a look at the shading. And now let's come up to the top and select one of the inner edge rings. Double click to select it. Scale it in and move it up. Then let's select the second one and move it up as well, but this time a little higher than the one before. And I'm gonna drag this vertex up and snap it so it aligns with the inner set of edges and creates a flat top. Toggle the display of soft edges. And we need to make a few adjustments here. I'm gonna select this edge ring and turn it into a hard edge. And I'm also going to select this edge ring and set it to a hard edge as well. Now it's looking better. We're going to come up to the bottom now and create the inner indent for where the light would shine from. We're going to select this inner edge ring and scale it out, which will set our inner border. Switch over to Face Component mode, then hold Tab, left click drag to pane select these inner faces. Then extrude them in to create a slight indent. We'll then scale these faces in so there's a slight angle to the indent. Let's quickly switch over to Edge Component mode and set some soft edges. The first edge ring we're going to set it to is right here in the middle. I didn't like the hard edge, so we're going to set this edge to soft. And then on the inner edges of the indent. So to select this edge loop, select one edge, then hold Shift and double click on an edge next to it. This will select the entire edge ring loop and then set these edges to a soft edge. Let's disable wireframe unshaded and take a look. This is looking pretty good. Now let's create a piece of geometry, a bracket, where this light would be attached to the building. Let's create a cube and move it over here next to the lamp. Going to manually resize the cube and modify the pivot point to be on the bottom back vertex. This way we can snap this cube to the grid and align it to the building. Let's position this cube so it's centered with the light, and I'm going to adjust the size and its thickness. So this is our bracket that is attached to the wall. Select the inner face and press Ctrl E to extrude. We're going to manually scale these faces in and then extrude again so the bracket is attached to the light. Move this face far enough in so it is inside light's geometry, overlapping. Let's select the bracket and delete faces we won't see, which is the face inside the light and the face in the back up against the wall. We need to come back to the light and take care of the top and the bottom where there is a set of edges converge to the same vertex. I don't like having this on my geometry, and we're going to fix this. When it comes to static objects, this will look fine inside Unreal Engine 4, but this is not clean geometry, and ideally we should take care of this. So we're going to select these edges and delete them. Press Ctrl Delete. Then switch over to Vertex Component Mode, select two vertices, hold Shift, right click hold, and choose Connect Components. This will insert an edge between two selected vertices. Do this for the rest of the vertices here at the top. Then select all of these edges and set them to a soft edge. We're then going to repeat exact same steps for the bottom. We're going to delete these edges first, then select two vertices and connect components. Then set all of these edges to a soft edge. Now we're going to select the light and the bracket and combine them so they are a single object. So select them both, hold Shift, right click hold, and choose Combine. We need to reset the pivot point to the bracket vertice, the one that is aligned to the building. This will allow us to easily duplicate and position these lights all around the building. Let's freeze transformations, and we're going to duplicate this light in few other spots around the building. We do want to UV this first because we want this light to share the same texture. So we will end up replacing these lights with the UV'd version. But right now I'm just going to position them around so we get a sense of what it looks like. Now we're going to create fluorescent light right above the front door. I'm going to start with a cube and move it here in front of the door and up at the ceiling. We're going to set width to 12, height to 4, and depth to 140. Let's modify the pivot point to be in the corner vertex so we can snap this light on the grid and align it to the ceiling. Let's go back to inputs and set subdivision width and depth to 3. This will give us the extra geometry we'll need to create some detail. Again, I want to mention that for both of these lights, just like for everything else, I am looking at reference of how these objects look. So I'm not creating this from my head. Now let's select these two edge rings and scale them out to the outer edges. Then select these two edge rings and scale them out as well to create a bit more space. Let's adjust these outer edges a bit, and then we're going to select these two faces and extrude them down. In between these extrusions is where the fluorescent light bulb is going to be placed. We're going to delete these faces that we're not going to see. Then select the very top outer vertices and scale them out a little bit to create a slight angle. And this is looking pretty good. Now let's create a cylinder. This is going to be our fluorescent light bulb and position it into place right where we have the extrusion. We're going to center it and change subdivision axes to 10. This should be enough to give us smooth rounded shape. Let's scale the cylinder so it fits inside this extruded part. And then let's adjust the vertices of the lamp a bit to better cover the fluorescent bulb. Back in perspective viewport, I'm going to grab the front set of vertices, hold V, and left click drag to snap them to the extruded down part. Then grab the other set of vertices and move them to the other side. Then hold V again, left click drag to snap the vertices to this extruded down part. In order for the vertices to snap properly, make sure you are dragging along a specific axis only. So in my case, I left click dragged along the Z axis. Let's delete unseen faces and then select the inner set of edges and set them all to a soft edge. This will give us that smooth shading we need. Then select both parts of the fluorescent light, the light fixture and the bulb, and combine them into a single object. We're going to modify the pivot so it's at the top near the ceiling at any of the vertices. Then let's delete history and freeze transformations. And that is it. We are done with building lights.